take a look at this stump that I'm facing. I wanted to show this to you to give you some idea of how big these trees here can get. This is an old stump. I think it's probably 100 years old, so this was probably an old growth tree when it was harvested. Based on the shape, kind of it's a little bit fluted in shape. You see how it has kind of some ropey looking bulges going down it. That makes me think it was probably a western red cedar. And this bark, there's a little, let's see, is there any bark on it? There's a little bit on there. Doesn't give me too much of a clue, but I'm pretty sure that this is a western red cedar. And we can learn a little bit about the history of this stand from this too. So first off, you notice some charring. Do you see these black marks here? Let's look around it and see if there's any more. Don't see too much more, but that's enough to know that this stump was in a fire at some point. It doesn't necessarily tell us if the fire was before or after it was harvested. It was harvested pretty high, so presently when trees are harvested, they're usually harvested pretty close to the ground. But earlier on, about 100 years ago, in the first big cutover, these trees, especially the cedars, or a lot of the trees, tended to be harvested a little bit high. If they were a little bit flared at the base, it would be harder for mills to work with, so they would cut them a little bit higher. And also, if there was any rot inside the trunk at the lower levels, that would make it pretty dangerous for loggers who were cutting it. Because you can imagine, if you're cutting a solid log, you have a pretty good idea of when that tree is going to fall, how much of the wood you need to cut through. But if you think it's solid and it turns out that half of it is rotten, that tree might fall much earlier than you expected or at a different angle than you expected. So that's part of the reason why it was cut higher. And if you look, you notice there's a few notches on this tree. Here's one. Here's another one. There was one on the other side. These are called springboard notches. So a springboard is a board that a logger would, they'd cut a notch in the tree, put a board in here, and then stand on that board. And that would allow them to reach higher up on the tree. So looking a little bit further, I see some more down here. Here, I see some more charring. So this was definitely in a fire. And I think if I look real close in this springboard notch, I think I see some charring right there. So if there's some charring in the springboard notch, that tells us that the fire happened after the tree was harvested. Ecologically, these old stumps are kind of interesting. They're not something that would really occur that often. Naturally, sometimes a tree... Oh, do you see the hummingbird over here? A rufous hummingbird just flew by. Okay. You don't often see... Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, you don't often see a stump like this naturally. Sometimes trees might have rot and might break off in wind. So this isn't entirely a natural thing that would occur in the forest. But a lot of trees and plants are adapted to growing in dead wood. You see this plant up here? What's this plant that I'm giving a shake to? That's a red huckleberry. Red huckleberry is well adapted to growing in dead wood. And if we look real close here, there's a few tiny little seedlings growing in here. Those are hemlock, western hemlock seedlings. Western hemlock will also sprout in dead wood. And we've got more red huckleberry here. And this is actually a little bit different. This is one I don't often see growing in dead wood. This is a false azalea. Rhododendron menziesii. I think that's the scientific name. Double check me on that one. And we look down, we see even more. Here, do you see these western hemlocks growing out of the stump? We've got a little foam flower here at the base, and here is a western red cedar seedling as well. Okay. Another plant that's not on your list. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that this was foam flower. This isn't foam flower. This is called Coast Boykinia. It's not on the list of plants that you need to learn, but it's a nice plant to know anyway.